Good evening, everyone. Welcome to INTOUCH, a masterclass in school products powered by Brainwonders in partnership with Enfold India. This fourth edition of Masterclass series will take you on a short journey of introducing you to 30 innovative school products selected from across India. In this masterclass, innovative products, informative content, and progressive ideas are being shared with you. We remain hopeful that this and forthcoming sessions inspire you to take your school community to a new direction of development. My name is Namrita and I will be your moderator for today. I represent India's largest counseling organization, Brainwonders. With 108 global centers and 12,000 connected schools, Brainwonders has been revolutionizing the face of academic guidance, career development, and personal growth via its US patented DMIT and online psychometric tests. Founded by Mr. Manish Naidu, over the past decade, Brainwonders has been nationally awarded on 7 different platforms, including recognition for being the most trusted and digitally innovative career counseling company. Excellence and passion is what Brainwonders strives for, and with that, let's begin the today's session. Before I welcome today's speaker, I request all our audience to immerse themselves in the session and hold their questions, which will be addressed right after the session. I present to you today's speaker, Dr. Sangeeta Saksena, who is a co-founder of Enfold India. Dr. Sangeeta Saksena is a gynecologist, author, counselor, and activist working in the field of life skills, sexuality, and personal safety for over 25 years now. Along with Dr. Saldanha, she co-founded Enfold Proactive Health Trust in 2001 to work with children, adolescents, and adults in this area. Along with Dr. Saldanha, Dr. Saxena developed a curriculum on understanding sexuality and personal safety that is age appropriate, culturally relevant, values, and rights based approach is what Enfold India encompasses. It is respectful and empowering for self. She has led the development of the Suvidha Kit by Enfold Trust to explore these topics with children with intellectual disability, autism, and sensory impairment as well. Dr. Saxena has co-authored On Track, a series on life skills and personal safety for school students from grade 3 to 9, and it is published by Macmillan India. She is the author of Life Skills for Self-Development written for Jyoti Nivas College, an autonomous Bangalore-based college, and the author of Life Skills, workbook for adults and facilitating life skills with adolescents, brought out by Enfold. Dr. Saxena initiated and established a PG diploma and a certificate program in B.Ed course at Christ University on life skills based on personal safety and sexuality education. She has presented papers on personal safety and sexuality education for children with intellectual disabilities and other subjects at national as well as international conferences. Dr. Saxena has advocated and participated for in developing policies with regards to the safety of women and children in the Karnataka State Child Protection Policy, besides working with the government of Karnataka, Delhi, Telangana, and Madhya Pradesh on these issues. Since 2018, Dr. Saxena has been acquiring training in restorative justice and restorative practices in India as well as in US. Through a trained team at Enfold, she has been promoting training in this field in schools, childcare institutions, and among government and NGO staff. Today's session topic is inclusive personal safety and comprehensive sexuality education in schools. Over to you, Dr. Saxena.
Thank you so much, Namrata, and for that very detailed introduction. So, yeah, that has already set the tone, and I'll probably be taking less time on some of the slides. So, thank you for joining in here. I will be talking about inclusive personal safety and sexuality education in schools. And what set us off on this, the two gynecologists, Dr. Shoiba and myself, we were practicing here in St. John's Medical College in Bangalore. And we used to get young people, sometimes even high school students, asking for various kinds of support because they were facing some issues, and pregnancy being one of them. And that set us thinking that something information about sexuality, which is something so normal and natural for a person. Lack of that information is landing so many children in these issues. So we said, okay, let us start with sexuality education. It was always sexuality education, not sex education. And with high school students, like 8th, 9th, 10th grade students, because once they enter college, they feel that they're almost adults, you see. So we started with high school students, and this is 2001, 2002. And very soon, we realized that just sexuality education is not enough, because a lot of it is linked with how the child feels about themselves, whether there is self-respect, whether there is self-confidence, whether they have a positive body image or not. So very soon we said, okay, we will make it life skills based, but ninth grade was, or 8th grade was too late, because in India, as in many other cultures, we kind of pass comments or say things to our children which necessarily doesn't build their self-esteem or a positive body image. In fact, many a time the child is battling with a very poor body image because of comments they heard from right from almost the time that they were born. Comments on the color of the skin or their gender, the various bodily aspects. So we said, okay, let's start with 6th grade onwards, but we realized that's also too late. So we were, from 2002 onwards, we started talking with children from grade 1 onwards. And when we began that, and this may come as a surprise, that even as gynecologists, we had not received much input on child sexual abuse during our MBBS training and MD training. So when we began work with first grader students, that is the time we realized the extent of child sexual abuse in India. And this is much before the 2007 Government of India study that came out on child abuse, much more of that later, which had pegged it at 53% of the children in that study had reported sexual abuse. So when we realized that, we said, okay, we have to talk about personal safety. But the curriculum, what do we follow? So we consulted with our very good friend, and she's our trustee, Meena Shavraman, with MSc in Child Development. We consulted with Dr. Shekhar Sheshadri here, a very famous child psychiatrist in NIMHANS here, and we indigenously developed a curriculum. It was culturally appropriate. We used words that if the child said, and describing, what the child learned in school, a first grader, and they said something at home, it wouldn't raise eyebrows. It wouldn't cause the parents to come, up in arms to the school and saying, "What are you teaching our children?" So we used words that would be acceptable, culturally acceptable, but at the same time clear words, not ambiguous words, to refer to the private parts and the genitals of the child, because that was an issue. We realized that is an issue in reporting of sexual abuse. So it became a life skills based personal safety and a comprehensive sexuality education. And after working for almost 15 years, from 2016, we began working to adapt our curriculum so that it could be accessible to children with disabilities, especially children with intellectual disabilities. So I'll talk a little more about that later. Very soon we were offering, from 2010, we were offering psychosocial and medical legal support to children who and families who reported sexual abuse. So we take them through that, support them. And restorative practices, as Namrata explained, we have been doing that. We have taken it, we are probably the first group to introduce it to a school in India. Here in Bangalore, we have done that, and it is a fantastic way to build life skills, relationships, responsibility, accountability, all the social skills and life skills in children, as well as build relationships among the staff. Yeah, this is the slide I was on, explaining that we are also doing restorative practices and that training in schools. Besides, of course, what Namrata said, we were instrumental in including sexual safety in the Karnataka State Child Protection Policy, which was notified in 2016, and that there it is included that all children from 1st to 12th grade should have personal safety education. All staff, teaching, non-teaching, support staff, everybody and the parents should receive information on child abuse, child safety. And we are currently involved in developing the Madhya Pradesh policy as well, child protection policy. So our reach has been good over the last almost 20 years. We have reached over 2 lakh children in over 670 schools and 650, sorry, I just went back. Yeah, and around 670 schools have been covered with, and we also train adult stakeholders like the police, the doctors, judicial personnel, counselors, school counselors, social workers. So that has been our work. Coming specifically to this, and why should we have this education? As I've already said, children have a right to protection. They have a right to be safe. So they need clear information which will help them in recognizing sexual abuse, all kinds of abuse, but especially sexual abuse because there's silence around it, and reporting of it. So we encourage children to go and tell their safe adults, and more of that later. But this opens up, and many a time children come and tell our facilitators themselves just at the end of the session. They may hold back and they may talk to them about this and say, yes, this is what I'm facing. With the older children from 5th grade, we start puberty and sexuality education because that is also their right to navigate puberty and sexuality with dignity. With respect for the self, and they need to know how to behave and what is appropriate, what are the rights of others, what is their rights, what are the boundaries, so, and what are the risks in this, right? So we talk about that, and we also inform them about the existing laws in the country. The Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012 says that a child below 18 cannot give consent for sexual activity. Now that is against adolescent emerging sexuality, but the children need to know that because that's the way the law is going to treat them. So now when do we start this? As early as possible. So for children younger than 1st grade, we like to train their teachers and their parents, because it is not a one-time, one-off session. And anyway, our personal safety sessions, sexuality sessions is a minimum of 6 session curriculum. 6 times we meet the child, and then many schools take it year by year. So as the child grows, the content expands and we include it. But for smaller children, we train the teachers and the parents, and as early as possible, like 1.5, 2 years of age, you begin naming the parts of the body and all of that. And of course, as and when the situation arises. Sexual abuse, as we all can sense, it is fairly high in almost all cultures. In India specifically, we have this study by Government of India which showed 53% of children face sexual abuse, and slightly more boys than girls reported this. Not only all forms of abuse, but even severe sexual abuse. Slightly more boys than girls. And for persons with disability, children with disability, it is 4 to 10 times higher. And the greater the disability, the more the isolation of the child, the more the craving for affection, the more they become targets of sexual abuse. They also have communication difficulties. Now, these communication difficulties are the nature of the disability for these children. But for children without disability, the social stigma, the silence, the fact that they were not given proper names for their body parts. Some children have been told that this is your flower. And so they have gone and reported sexual abuse, saying, uncle is touching my flower. And the parent has forgotten. And the parent said it's all right because the parent thought it's a flower in the garden. But the child was actually reporting sexual abuse. And the vocabulary was ambiguous, not clear. And compounding that is the fact that 90% of the time the offender is a known, trusted, and regularly encountered person whom the child knows, trusts, and possibly loves as a member of their family or of their community, or in the school, or outside. So that really compounds the issue. They really find it difficult to report sexual abuse. And the teachers then by themselves find it very difficult to teach and talk about this. And this is the study we did when we were making the Suvidha Kit, and you can see that the teachers and caregivers of children with disabilities knew about the sexual abuse risk, but they were not able to talk about safe and unsafe touch. They found it very difficult to talk about sexuality. All the figures are there, and they lack the tools to do it. So it's not any different. I don't think it's any different for teachers of children without disability, because the B.Ed course doesn't cover this aspect. They're not taught how to teach personal safety to children. They're not taught that. And in 2018, I'm very happy to say that in Christ University, in their B.Ed course, we have integrated personal safety and sexuality education into their B.Ed course. But elsewhere, I don't think it exists. So what do we teach? So our curriculum says the world is inherently a safe space. It's a safe place. You cannot live your life feeling scared all the time, feeling stressed, who's going to do what to me. And it's also not true, because most adults care for children. Now, when we say 53%, we feel, oh my God, all the adults probably are abusers. At least 50% are abusers. No, it's not like that. Most of the adults that the child encounters, really, if you think about it, are safe adults. They care for children. What happens is the abusers abuse many children. And when we talk to children, we realize, oh my God, so many children have been abused. Oh, so the world is not a safe place. It's not like that. And also, we remember that child safety is ultimately an adult responsibility. We cannot tell the child, I've told you, don't let anyone touch you there. That's placing the responsibility on the child, that you make sure nobody touches you there. And can we really prevent that kind of a thing? No, because if somebody has made up their mind to abuse me as an adult, or why abuse, even murder me, I really probably won't be able to stop it. So we say that not to be overprotective or alarming, and consider the agency of the child as they're growing. Yes, as they grow, they can do more. They can report, but much more ease, and there's more agency as they grow. For children with disabilities, we give very clear rules. And here we don't work directly with the children. We work with teachers and parents. We train them in focusing on the ability of the child with disability, and helping them, supporting them in learning this. So what are we teaching after all? 3 very simple rules. And this is about clothing, touching, and talking. And it's about how we keep certain parts of our body, our private parts, and we name them. We call them, for the younger children, first grader, second grader, we just use the word susu place and potty place. So they giggle and laugh, and then they're okay with it. With older children, of course, we use the proper anatomical words. Then we talk about touching, how we don't touch ourselves in these parts in front of others. And we talk about these parts, our questions, anything that is disturbing us, any issue, with our safe adults. And we don't name the safe adult. For children, you really don't know who is the abuser, because this is a crime done in silence. This is a crime where the perpetrator threatens, bribes, blackmails the child into not telling. And so you really wouldn't know, but the child will know who is breaking their personal safety rules. So we say people who follow these rules for themselves and for others, meaning they don't pull other people's clothes off, they don't touch others in their private parts, they don't talk about the private parts with other people in a secretive way and things like that. That makes a safe adult. A person who follows these personal safety rules for themselves and for others is a safe adult. And you can always go and tell your trusted safe adult. So we ask children to identify, to draw their hand, and on the five fingers and thumb write the names of five safe adults that they can go to, actually approach physically. When if they find that the safety rules are broken, and we teach the safety rules just like traffic rules, with no other feelings around it, that these are like traffic rules, and the person who breaks these rules is at fault. They are held accountable and responsible. It is not your blame, it's not your shame. We also talk to them about what to do if somebody breaks personal safety rules. And here we say no if you can, because really we don't teach our children to say no. We don't listen to their no. We don't encourage them to say no. We say, oh, this is a mark of disrespect, saying no. But here we do want the child to say no, and we understand that they may not be able to say no. Why, even as adults, sometimes we are not able to say no. In a bus or something is happening, we just move aside instead of saying no, stand properly, what are you doing? So say no if you can. We encourage them to go away from the abuser as and when they can, not at the cost of injury or serious, grievous injury to themselves. No, their life is precious. Going away as and when you can, and then tell a safe adult about the abuser, tell about what happened as and when you feel ready. And as I told you, younger children, they just come and tell you. The older ones who have been put, this shame and stigma has been put on the victim, they find it more difficult, but they also finally come and take help from their safe adults, and sometimes our facilitators are also approached for it. So these are the things that we tell them. Moving on to the older children, from 5th grade onwards, we are into sexuality education, which is a value-based, rule-based conversation about sexual thoughts, desires, fantasies, and how these are normal and natural, and how these are diverse. And that experience is inside, and you don't have to feel guilty about it. And can we accept it and respect these things? This is part of nature. Then we also talk about expression of these desires. And that is where responsibility comes in. That is where boundaries and rules come in, and the need to respect not only yourself, but the other also, and their boundaries and their rules and what they want. So it is built on this. It is age appropriate. It becomes more complex and more wider in its scope as we move from 5th grade to 10th or 12th grade. Emphasis again is on respect and rights. And this is in tune, as I told you, we developed this ourselves. We did not import this from any other country or any other organization. And it matches very beautifully with UNESCO's comprehensive education in sexuality, which is about skills, attitude, and values that will empower children to realize their health and well-being and dignity, consider how their choices affect their well-being and that of others, and understand and ensure the protection of their rights throughout their lives. So it's important to build their self-esteem and body image based on their qualities and things that are inherent and their behavior, rather than physical attributes of how tall or how broad or how big my eyes are. So in sexuality education, of course, all the facts and figures about the body and puberty and gender identity, sexual orientation, about pregnancy, childbirth, contraception. Now, this the pregnancy, childbirth, contraception usually comes in 10th grade or above. But before that, if any question is asked, we do answer it. Sexual desires, masturbation, pornography, all of this is discussed with a sense of respect and boundaries, and the possible effects of these. We present scientific facts about these things, and in a very secular manner, I should say. We are not there to change anybody's beliefs, but we do ask people to look at what is happening. What are the beliefs you have, and whether they make sense in the context of rights and responsibility. Sexual abuse, personal safety, all of that is, of course, a part of sexuality education. So in our classrooms, when we go in, we are offering this curriculum which has been tested and tried for almost 20 years. We have also presented papers on this. The facilitators are extensively trained, almost 104 hours of training they undergo before they start taking independent sessions. We demonstrate the sessions, then we observe them as they are holding the sessions, and when we are satisfied, only then they go into independently. We have worked with international agencies like UNICEF, UNESCO, and more recently, Ford Foundation developing the curriculum for college students. And it is medically accurate thanks to our training, and holistic, value-based, and so this is what we are offering and bringing to the schools. Almost 650 schools have had sessions so far. We also have training, awareness, and capacity building sessions for teachers, the support staff, and parents, especially on child safety, and also making the school itself safe. So we support schools in developing their child protection policies and do safety audits. But our main focus has been work directly with children and their teachers. After all of that, we decided to do the Suvidha project. And Suvidha project is to bring the same education and same things to children with disabilities. And we tackled the most difficult. We thought we'll start with intellectual disabilities. So this kit contains a lot of activities, and I'll show you samples of that. And the idea is to make the teachers and the caregivers of children with disabilities comfortable with their own sexuality, give them basic understanding of reproductive health, sexual development, so that they can support their children in their care to learn personal safety and basics of reproductive health and sexuality. So I will be showing these are just pictures. We have separate kit for male and female children, the Suvidha kit, and we have various, types of file folder activities and puppets, and 31 scripts, social scripts that have material for young children to learn personal safety, and for adolescents to learn about sexuality, how to manage erection, ejaculation, menstruation, all of that. So as well as internet safety. So to conclude this part, what we are offering, what we are bringing is personal safety, sexuality, education, to create safer spaces in our schools, in our homes, and including for children with disabilities. We work with the school, we impart this age-appropriate, culturally relevant, and value-based education, and we bring it in person as well as online. COVID has taught us that. We have been doing this work online now for almost a year. And we bring also the Suvidha Kit, which can be used as an inclusive education tool in schools. Here is our contact information, info@enfoldindia.org, and our phone number. And with this, I will stop and get back to my video so that I can show you more. These are some of the things in our Suvidha kit, like puppets with detachable, clothes, and so you will know whether the child has learned how to be clothed, because you can take the puppet to different parts of the house or school and say, is it okay to do this, be here like this, or it should be covered. And there are various file folder activities for teaching them clothing rules, as well as touching rules. And these are all detachable little puppets that we have here. We also have a body puzzle to help them name the parts and identify and place them. We have a lot of flashcards about touching, because this is meant for children with intellectual disability, especially autism, and they like more material that is visual. So we have social scripts, very graphic social scripts about erection, managing wet dreams, and where to touch, how to touch yourself. So, and similarly for the girls also we have, these are the draft ones for managing menstruation, managing their romantic feelings. What is okay, how much is okay. And to support the parent and the teachers, we have a very detailed Suvidha manual, which contains all the material that they may need. Currently, we are involved with adapting this for children with visual impairment and auditory impairment. And with that, I will open the floor for questions. If there have been in the chat any questions, anything.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking it ahead. Uh, so, ma'am, we have a lot of feedback for your organization, the work that you're doing. Naturally, most of it is positive, and again, voicing how important your work is. We have a few questions also lined up, and of course, participants, you can present your questions now on. You can either use the chat box, you can use the activity section, and of course, you can also raise your hand, and then we can have you present the question directly as well. So we have the first question by Dr. Yogita Sarwal, who of course appreciates the initiative and says, does your organization assist parents in this direction as well?
Yes. Actually, when we began, Yogita, we began with saying we will first have an orientation session and an awareness session for the parents. But for that entire school, only 3 parents turned up. We do sessions for parents, but this was very long back in 2002 and 3 I'm talking about. Now when we do sessions for parents, many come in, and we have sessions for parents of, say, primary school, middle school and high school, because the concerns are different. And with online work, it has become so much easier to do it. So yes, for parents, definitely. We also have a set of apps that the parents can access. So I'll just show that.
Sure.
Where has it disappeared? Presenting. I can't find that presenting window anymore. Yeah, I found it. Yeah. So, yeah, these are the apps that we have. These are free downloadable apps made with UNICEF and CDAC. And the Surakshit app is about teaching children personal safety, and Bal Suraksha is for parents about if there is abuse, then what are their roles, responsibilities. It's also for schools and police and other media personnel. Stree Suraksha is, of course, regarding adult safety, women's safety. Yeah.
Yes. So, ma'am, we have another question lined up for you from Jasmeet Kaur, who's asking, sometimes parents don't want to listen about their relatives, so that's a very difficult situation to handle. Can you please help us understand how to handle those situations?
Yes, they don't want to listen, but I just want to share that we had this situation. Seventh grader, in fact, in that school, somehow in that class, 2 or 3 children had shared about different abuse that they were facing, and one of them said, "It is my uncle." So we took the child's permission, and then we asked the parent to come in, and the parent was told about this. And the parent was very upset. Of course, we didn't speak. We had informed the school administration, and the counselor had spoken. And the parent was very upset. How can you say this about my brother or relative? And went away. Now, when we returned, and there was summer break, when we returned to the school after the summer break, and we went back to that class, the child was looking very happy and comfortable. And so what has happened is that, even though the parent in front of the school said, "How can you say this?" But the thing is that once you have heard something, you cannot unhear it. So the parent has heard that maybe one relative of mine is doing something inappropriate to my daughter or my son. Now they can't really take it out of their head. So it'll be there. So next time, maybe after that, they were more careful, right? Hmm.
I think that's very important, ma'am. At least getting it out and having, in any form, at least that is important. Awareness is the first step. I think what follows is always secondary.
Hmm.
It may or may not be more important, but awareness is where everything begins. So Dr. Yogita Sarwal has another question. She is asking, can the resources be available on an individual basis as well?
Yes, the Suvidha Kit is made for caregivers and for teachers, and the way we have designed it, a very extensive manual, so it is available for individual purchase. Because really the children will need input from the school as well as at home, the children with intellectual disability. Yes, it can be. Our personal safety education and all of that, we do hold training sessions where parents can come in, and during this COVID times, we held sometimes a 10-hour course on adolescent sexuality, 10-hour course on child sexual abuse. So we have been doing those courses. So that too can be done.
I think it's always good to have as many people as possible to talk about it and use the right tools to deliver this awareness.
Yes, our email ID is info at
Your
Enfold.
details will be posted, ma'am. It can be posted by the team of future school leaders as well.
Yeah. And it's easy to find Enfold Trust or Enfold India. If you type, it should come up.
Yes.
There is a
So, yes. So, dear participants, the details or the contact details for Enfold India has been posted on the chat box. You can take it from there for the convenience of everybody. I'll just read it out here as well. It is info@enfoldindia.org. Their contact details is there are two contact numbers. The first one is 80255208489, and the second one is 9900094251. So they can be reached over the email as well as on call, and of course the website detail is enfoldindia.org. We have another question for you, ma'am. Two questions lined up for you. The question by Shalini Mehta states, many of the schools in every country experience to many degrees violent and criminal behavior that includes bullying, substance abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, racism, gangsterism, vandalism, and a host of other antisocial behaviors. All of these make these schools an unsafe place to be for some of our children, and suffocating many of their dreams and reducing the school experience for these children to a battle of survival rather than academic achievement. So, what are the long term effects on children who are these victims of abuse?
yes, Shalini, isn't that Shalini would
Yes,
ask?
ma'am, Shalini Mehta.
Yes. There is actually a huge study about this adverse childhood experiences, which was again done in the US, where they followed these children who have faced various kinds of abuse, maybe at the hands of their family or their peers in schools. And it has very long-lasting effects in terms of physical illnesses, mental, depression, and why the suicide rates are very high and they are increasing among our children as well. So there is a whole host of problems with this. So there is a lot of things that they are seeing and they're getting, through the media, through the internet, and they're seeing around them in their social environment. How much there is violence, how much of abuse. So they find it very difficult to how to learn to relate to each other with respect and concern. And I'm very happy to say that the restorative practices that I spoke about earlier, it began almost 15 years ago, in 15 to 20 years ago in Oakland School District in San Francisco area, where there was all of this, what you mentioned, is like rampant drug abuse among teenagers, everything. And they have introduced these restorative practices, and all of these things have come down and the academic achievements have increased. So, we say that behind every behavior of the child, there is a need. And if we can address that need, the behavior would disappear. But most of us have been trained to say that if the behavior is not okay, then you punish the child. If the behavior is all right, then you reward the child. So we use a carrot and the stick, and we are just looking at the behavior. And the child learns, अच्छा punishment मिलेगा ना, so नहीं करेंगे, या इनके सामने नहीं करेंगे, not in front of these people. We will do it in a way that they don't even find out that we have done it. So they learn to lie, they learn to manipulate, they learn to hide. That doesn't really help. So life skills education, restorative circles, where you set class values rather than class rules, that the children and the teacher and everyone follows, that is bearing a lot of fruit in this manner. It's really effective.
Thank you, ma'am. So yes, there's a lot of agreement, and a lot of people have resonated with what you have presented, the facts and figures that you presented. And we actually have one more question lined up for you by Pankaj Jain, who says, do you believe it is important for every school to have counselors to monitor the psychological status of children?
Yeah, can't say more. It is definitely the need. The schools are also like an extension of the teachers are in the parenting role and the parents are in the teaching role. So for the child, now they are spending so much time in school from morning and till evening, and so this space really it could be a space where they get the support that they need. They're able to talk. Many a time they're not able to talk with their parents, but the counselor becomes the one that they can come to.
Thank you, ma'am. I think a lot of times, there are a lot of misconceptions that anyone has, irrespective of their own education or professional background, that certain things, let's say, are just more, certain practices are more prevalent with girls or with certain age groups or with certain sections of India. But that is, I think, not true. When it comes to, abuse, or when it comes to trauma, when it comes to harassment, I think we need to be aware that anybody can be a victim at any point of time, and awareness and empowering them is the only option. As a career counseling organization, and we work with a lot of young students, like I said, we work with a lot of preschools as well, where sometimes parents and teachers or anybody, they may think, this is too early an age, why expose a child to something when they don't even know about it, but then I think a lot of time that ignorance is what is taken advantage of more than anything else.
Yeah. And this study that I quoted, the Government of India study, 2007, it came out. It was done among over 12,000 children in 13 different states of India. And what they found was child sexual abuse, on average, began around 5 years of age, and it peaked at 12. So if you're going to keep personal safety education and you mix up personal safety education with sexuality education, then you're going to start with puberty and it's already too late. Children have faced abuse by that time. What are you telling them now? Right? There were so many anecdotes. This child is sitting on the sofa. The child is maybe 3 years old. Parents are sitting opposite the child. The relative is sitting next to the child and they have their hand behind the child, or you put your hand behind the child. Parents can't see where the hand is. The hand has gone inside the skirt, inside the panty. It is touching the genitals of the child. But the child doesn't know that these are the parts that nobody should touch.
Exactly.
And she doesn't even know what to call them because they have been skipped over. She was told head, nose, mouth, chest, and maybe the tummy, and then the
Yeah.
nose. Nothing in between.
I absolutely agree with you, ma'am, because unfortunately, we have had to work with, you said the study stated 5 years old. Unfortunately, we have come across cases which were way younger than 5 years old. I say unfortunately, though, I also think that the good thing is that at least it came to light. That is a good thing. That is the only silver lining about it, that at least it came to light, and at least the next steps could have been taken, but then yes, prevention is always better than cure.
And the study said on average abuse began between 5 to 12 years of age. On average. Matlab, there were children who were very young also.
I know. Uh, Ma'am, I have one more question of my own. Are there any practices that the school can enforce to ensure that these kind of, as a part of, let's say, their curriculum, apart from, of course, what you have said in terms of education and awareness, in terms of, let's say, the peer-to-peer supervision, or let's say something in terms of the infrastructural requirements that the school can match to avoid, or at least
Yeah.
service provide surveillance to these factors if it
Yeah.
ever happens.
Yeah, that is there. That was there in the Karnataka State Child Protection Policy. It's also in the draft national policy for child protection. But what we Enfold does is we support schools in framing their child protection policy, in setting up their child protection committees and training the members of that, and we do safety audits also.
Oh,
We go in, actually physically go in, walk through, talk, and come out, and then give them a report of, where are the laxities. Before that, we prepare them in what is required, what is required. And we do this for schools that cater to also children with, say, hearing impairment. Here we did that for one of those schools, and for other schools as well. What you're asking, Sachin, about sexual violence against women and
yes,
children
ma'am.
in the country, what can we do? Yeah,
I
what can
will
we?
present the question for everybody else as well. Yes. So Sachin Kumar has asked, sexual violence against women and children has also been with us for a while, and women in this country and elsewhere in the world have been clamoring for society to sit up and listen. How can schools lead the fight against sexual abuse?
Yeah, many ways. So one is, of course, as we spoke about, make the school a safe space and have these awareness sessions for all management, parents, teachers, children, because these children are going to become older people. So that is one thing, having their own, and that's a huge number that the schools encounter every year. So many children and that many parents, double the number of parents, and so that is quite a bit over there. And in every encounter that we have, can we be more aware? Can we dismantle toxic masculinity and toxic femininity? Break those things and empower each other. And like when we get a WhatsApp message, sometimes, and you say, what is this? This is such a gendered thing, such a stereotypical thing, because underlying the violence is a stereotype. Women should cook, and if the woman doesn't cook, there is violence against her. Right. So the stereotypes, are we perpetuating those stereotypes by just forwarding that message, by telling jokes that are based on all of these? So there's a lot of individual thing we can do. And as I said earlier, the Enfold is now working at making, in fact, we are rolling out that training next week to teachers of 5 disciplines in colleges: nursing, counseling students, social work, and disability, and B.Ed. And we are training their teachers to train their students in sexuality, gender, violence, and safety, so that when these teachers come out, they would be already trained. When these nurses come out, they're already sensitive. These social workers, these counselors. So that is how we go around bringing about change at a personal level and as a group. That's
Absolutely agreed, ma'am. I think to add on to that, we ourselves also sometimes just need to be aware that, it is not just his and her that we are talking about nowadays. There's a lot of, sometimes students may be, I mean, students may be as confused about what is going on. I mean, sexuality is still a very broad term. It is not a binary term anymore.
yes. Yes.
So we need to be sensitive about those things whenever, even when giving an example about science. I remember our teachers telling, and very rightly at that point of time, saying that, okay, to understand how, let's say, evaporation works, go home, and when your mom is in the kitchen, just see how she boils the water. I mean, just go to the kitchen and boiling the water is good enough. You don't need to, add the mom or when your father comes from home, and I am not saying those examples are wrong. All I'm saying that examples portray something. They fuel a particular gender role or gender work or profile or task, and these are still very superficial things to talk about. It goes very deep.
Yeah.
And considering that nowadays, the world is so dynamic throughout the time, I think we need to be very, very aware of how we are presenting certain things to our children, how we are discussing things amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
When
And
we have said that, yes, ma'am.
what are the roles, gender roles that the teachers and the support staff is portraying?
Yes,
Is a teacher asking the girls to decorate the classroom
correct.
and the boys to shift the benches? Girls can also lift those benches.
Yes,
Why not build their strength and all of that? But I'm just reminded of when you said school's a safe space by Sachin. In one of the schools, the complaint that we got from sixth standard girls was that we have boys from our class, a couple of boys who will say that, whatever I'm saying, you must do. Like, if we are saying you can't join this team, you can't join this team, you can't play here, you can't this, otherwise I will rape you.
my God.
Yes. And when the girls had reported this to their teacher, the teacher just laughed and said, "Oh no, they're just joking." So
That's
that's what I mean. Dismantle these toxic things and not subscribe to boys will be
I think
boys.
it's important to figure out where did those boys even get the idea that this is something that that they can do. I think that is more important than just reprimanding the boys and saying no, don't do this, because
Yeah.
that is just
See,
like putting a band-aid.
but Namrata, the word rape, this four-letter word,
And
any child who can read can read it.
it
It's
has
there
just
in
two
the
syllables.
papers. Yeah, it's there in our TVs, there in our serials, it's everywhere.
I understand, ma'am. I
Mm.
think we are all, it is definitely very heartening to see that everybody today has joined in to, just, I'll say it's a work in progress. It'll take time, but at least it's a work in progress. I think what Enfold India is doing and what all of us today, the participants today, by joining this session, are trying to at least understand and then implement. I think that is still commendable. It Yes, it may not be enough, but it is better than something. So I think we should all be very, very serious about our own initiative, the roles that we play. Let's say even if we are not organizing a full-fledged workshop about awareness, it's important that we understand the role that we are perpetuating is very important. We have a
Mm.
final question of the evening by Dr. Nalini Arora, who's asking, how do you think the mindset of children coming from homes that practice patriarchy can be changed?
Yeah, I will only say, Nalini, that parents are not the only influence on the child. Teachers have a huge role to play, as well as peers. So as the child grows, what the teacher said is like sacrosanct. मेरी टीचर ने ये कहा था, right? So they begin to see other role models, and that is also one of the boons, I should say, of the media and the internet. That children are being exposed, the adolescents, they to all kinds of ideas. Like Namrata said, the word sex is not binary anymore, right? You may not have said that you're too young, but then 20 years ago, it wouldn't have been in a conversation like this, right? So it can be, and just keeping and knowing, Nalini, that there is no one strategy. There's no one single way, because it's a multifactorial. So something that the teachers are saying, some programs that are being held, if the school is arranging, gender, we don't want to erase gender, but we want to have gender equity. And we don't want to enforce any particular behavior on people, but we celebrate gender diversity. If somebody wants to be very feminine, fine, be very feminine. Somebody wants to be very masculine, be very masculine, but that should not mean that you have to trample on somebody's rights and be violent. Right? So, yeah,
Thank
keep
you so much. Yes,
hopes.
ma'am. No, no, please continue.
Yeah, just that if you can make a difference to this one child, I want to share this. In one of these restorative circles that was being held for first grade students in the school, the teacher had posed a question, what do you like to learn? What would you like to learn? This is first grade. And most of the students said things like cycling or swimming or playing some music or dance. Then it came to this child and he said, I want to learn how to think well. I was so surprised. I was so surprised. My goodness, this child is saying, I want to learn how to think well. So,
Very nice. So students are reflective. They see, I'm sure this child, this is a good influence. The child must have gotten a good source somewhere and they have grasped onto that. And just like the other kids, who may have been motivated by a sports person or a nice dancer, this child was motivated by somebody who is a thinker, who is an innovator. And that's why we have been trying to say, not only through this session, through every sessions, that children are very impressionable. We as adults, we as educators, we as somebody who have taken a responsibility by our own choice to be a role model and a motivator for the kids. It's very, very important that we know what we are doing. And if we don't know, we have Enfold India to, teach us, train us, help us understand a lot of things. And I think that's absolutely fine. As long as we are open to learning, it's a good thing.
sure, sure. Presenting
Thank you
role
so
models is it?
so sorry.
Presenting role models, yeah.
Um, So thank you so much, ma'am, for making us uncomfortable at certain points today. I think it was very much needed for all of us. I mean, if we as viewers have had those moments where we are the educated, we are the aware lot, we already know so many things that are going on, and still if we felt, those discomfort at certain points throughout your session, I think we can only imagine what is the state of the child who actually may or may be experiencing or may be living in an environment where something like this is going on. I think we can just get an idea. To be honest, there's no way that we can actually know what the child is going through, because it is too diverse, it is too deep, and too traumatic an experience, which I don't think I'll wish upon anybody. But it was important for us to know a lot of factors, and thank you for being on this journey, which is much needed. As many of our participants have said, that yes, it is so much needed, and it is so much valid, and it is so much required, it is so much mandatory, I'll say, from in these days. So thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out the time and presenting to us.
Welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to everyone who participated and those who came and heard us. So, yeah, hope to hear from you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
dear participants, for participating today's session. I hope all of us learned a lot today, and I hope all of us are motivated to learn even more. We'll connect again tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Till then, have a great evening.